want to begin by doing some brief introductions. My name's Steph Unthank Blatter. I'm the director of BAMBA, and I'm joined today by Sally Singleton, who is our register manager and events manager. Thanks for being here, Sally. Yeah, we've also got some other members of our team here as well. So I think it's useful just to raise some awareness of knowing who they are. But we've got Hannah Hibbs, who works with us on comms, and Tawny Cortez, who is our EDI lead. So just a few little waves there from them too. Nice to have them with us here today. So good. So we're going to make a start. Before we get going into the presentation, just to give you a little bit of an overview as to how this session is going to run today. We'll do a short practice at the beginning just to allow the session just to settle for a few moments. I've got a few slides that I want to share with you that just talk to the detail of the work that we've done in 2025, launching into 2026, the new approach to professional standards, and really importantly, the revisions to the good practice guidelines for the first time in a very long time. So just highlighting that work. We've had a number of questions that have come in from people that are either here today or have sent them in because they couldn't make it today. And we'll go through some of those questions because we've obviously been able to formulate answers quickly, and they seem to be questions that have been arising from more than one or two people. So I think that's useful, that there'll be some sort of frequently asked questions, and we'll cover the answers to those. And then there'll be an opportunity for you to pop anything that might be coming up for you, any observations or questions, curiosity that you might have. You can either pop that into the chat, or there might even be time for you to raise your hand and ask that question to us, but also for the rest of the audience too. Now, with anything like this, this is a pretty big deal. This is a big deal. We're moving into that space of professionalising the field and continuing the great work that's gone on for a number of years now. And the revisions to the good practice guidelines in itself is likely to raise some curiosity in so many of us. So to that end, I imagine there are going to be a number of questions, and we'll do our absolute best to get to as many of them as possible. But just to be sure that they'll all get answered eventually, we will be updating the website on an ongoing basis. We will be launching a frequently asked questions page. And as an outcome of this session today, this session will be recorded, or is being recorded as we speak, and will be placed onto YouTube with all of the rest of our recordings of our events, so that you can revisit that and refresh or update in a way that feels good for you. Good. Okay, so without further ado, let's just take a few moments just to be together here in this space. Thank you once again for joining. So just starting to find a position that you feel comfortable in. Maybe this is an opportunity to shuffle the body about a bit. Roll the shoulders or turn the head from side to side in a way that brings some comfort. And allowing the body to just settle here in your seat, or whatever it is that you might be resting on today in this moment. Maybe just taking some time to be with the body. Noticing the weight of the body in the seat, or the weight of the body just resting here and connecting, making contact with whatever it is that's holding us up. Maybe noticing where the body makes contact. Maybe the feet through the floor. Or it might be the legs through the chair. Maybe you notice your back is supported in some way. Noticing the placement of your hands. Maybe just checking in on the body for any areas of physical holding on, of tension. Letting go those common areas of the tummy and the chest, the neck, the jaw, the temples, the forehead. Or maybe somewhere else for you, wherever that might be showing up. Just allowing the body just to let go and rest backwards, leaning towards a gentle sense of softness. Just being here for a few moments longer. Just resting in awareness of the body. Allowing ourselves this space. Opportunity to pause. As we just come towards the end of this short opportunity just to be together here in stillness. Just noticing if there's anything that you need to do or to get or to grab that can help you to be comfortable for the next 52 minutes. And as you just blink your eyes open, if they're still closed, maybe just taking this opportunity to, just drink in the people that are in front of you on your screen. And notice who's there, the connection that we have, this lovely opportunity to be together, even though virtually, just feeling into and sensing being part of this community and how actually quite joyous that is, how wonderful that can feel. Thank you so much. Good. Thank you. I'm just going to take that opportunity just to have a quick sip of water. Okay. So if you've just joined, thank you for being here, and thanks for everybody for showing up today, and in particular, I think for just having an interest in this work. It's a really, really important moment as we move into this space and place of recognizing all of the efforts and the ongoing commitment to professionalizing the field, to integrity, to ethics, standards, and the way that we all hold that so dearly in the work that we do. And I was just saying to the team actually this morning, this real sense of shift. I don't know if you're feeling it, something going on, something in the water, this real sense of shift towards this knowing of the work that we do and how really, really important it is. And that it really is BAMBA's opportunity, but also its place, its job to help shape the professionalism of mindfulness, not only in the UK, but actually a lot more broadly than that now. So today is a moment in time. We're going to be talking here about the launch of the professional standards and also the revisions to the good practice guidelines. I'll take you through some slides. Anything that is arising for you, questions or observations, feel free to make a note of that, or pop it in the chat if that's helpful. Let's make a start. So a bit of background and intro. So I'm not going to talk directly to every word on the slide, but to give it a bit of a high level, and also to know that you'll get a copy of these slides as well, and that this is being recorded, as I said. So we had an annual gathering in July 2025, and the BAMBA idea of BAMBA professional standards was something that was talked about back then, and we've been working on that since then with a group of professionals from the field. And really looking at how we create these professional standards in a way not only supporting the field, teachers, trainers, supervisors, practitioners, but also from the perspective of the public as well, whilst importantly meeting BAMBA's charitable aims and objectives. Now, as I said at the beginning, before I started to show the slides, it's important, I think, too, that we recognise that these revisions, the introduction of the professional standards, but also the revisions to the good practice guidelines, are absolutely, something that we've done to strengthen integrity, to continue that focus of safety and quality. But in doing so, it's given us a beautiful opportunity to embrace inclusivity and contemporary practice in the field. So we're really pleased actually to be able to create this diversification within how, trained teachers and supervisors can register with BAMBA from 2026. So as I began to talk about, it's been done in a really collaborative way. The work that we've done has been guided by BAMBA's values. It's been purposely driven. So the purpose, ensuring that BAMBA remains responsive, inclusive, committed to excellence while honouring the contemplative roots of mindfulness. And then the two blue boxes that you can see, firstly, just to outline that professional standards is about clarifying expectations for BAMBA registration through those historic enduring principles, and the revisions to the good practice guidelines, providing ethical, flexible, inclusive approaches to meeting standards, and that adaptability for diverse contexts and pathways. So it can be useful to consider the professional standards as the what and the good practice guidelines as the how. So professional standards defining the requirements for teachers to join and maintain BAMBA membership, to safeguard integrity, safety, equality of mindfulness teaching, whilst continuing to honour the wisdom and contemplative roots and traditions of contemporary practice, and whilst considering this step that we take towards becoming a recognised accrediting body for mindfulness teachers in the UK. And those core principles of professional standards, these remain unchanged. So what it is that we are looking for those that want to join or remain on the register remains unchanged. We have a commitment to personal practice, reflective teaching support, which we've always talked to as supervision, annual engagement in extended periods of mindfulness practice, retreat attendance, and then that commitment to ongoing learning and CPD. So the what is it that we're looking for people to do to join or remain? But the key revisions to the good practice guidelines is that they now become the how. So the good practice guidelines are the how do you do that? How do you meet the what requirement? And some of those key revisions include inclusive approaches, so broadening access. So there are multiple routes to meeting professional standards whilst always maintaining the integrity of those standards. And then the introduction of a how-to guide that offers examples of how professional standards can be met via various means. The second revision, the term innovative equivalence. So this is about recognizing creative ways of meeting standards that are equal to or above traditional criteria, equal to or exceeding traditional criteria. And then mitigating circumstances, particularly around renewal. Flexible pathways for teachers that might be experiencing, for instance, but not exclusive to, life changes, life challenges, caring responsibilities, and maybe healthcare issues, as an example. And I think there's something to point out with this piece around mitigating circumstances. In the past, we've had and mobilised a register panel in BAMBA, and we have done for many years. So when we have a renewal application that comes into BAMBA, that might not quite meet what would have been in the past good practice guidelines and now professional standards, that application would have gone to the register panel. The register panel would have discussed that case and would have made a decision based on those mitigating circumstances. But in support of our teachers, in support of the register, we want to be a bit more public about that. So we want to be able to say that we understand that life brings challenges from time to time, and we're very open and we have the humility to understand that. So by giving people that want to be on the BAMBA register or to renew their membership on the BAMBA register the opportunity to understand and see how we're actually demonstrating that through our guidelines is really important. So in the background, nothing's really changed because actually our values underpin the way that we would accept an application. It's really useful, I think, for members and for the public to see that we're very embracing of the fact that life can throw us challenges that we might not expect. And sometimes that can cause us, issues in meeting some of those professional standards from time to time. So new applications to the register. Now, there's a lot of people on this session today, this live session today, that are already BAMBA members. So this will be familiar to you. But if there are people on this session today that aren't BAMBA members and they're here because they're curious, this is the approach to new applications to the register, which remains unchanged. So qualified teachers applying to the register would have met a minimum 12-month training pathway with a BAMBA recognised and registered course, approach or curriculum that is delivered by a BAMBA recognised quality assessed teacher training organisation. So those three things remain unchanged. And that's what fundamentally we're looking for as a baseline in terms of meeting those professional standards. However, innovative equivalents, new applications, innovative equivalents, again, for new applications, there are now alternative routes to get to the register. So, and this could be a way that could be useful for those that may not have moved through what we might have deemed in the past to be a traditional route, but maybe are coming from a different background. So, for instance, we might have somebody that applies to the register that's been competency assessed through the MBI TAC. Somebody may be able to demonstrate their training, their supervision, their retreat attendance in a slightly different way to the historic traditional routes. It would be that we would ask that person to complete an assessment form and an application to be able to walk us through, help us understand the routes that they've taken to complete their training. It might be that we would assess the application with regards to references that would be offered. And then finally, what's really, really important is that the register panel of the past will now move forward under the guise of a Professional Standards Advisory Board, PSAB. So the Professional Standards Advisory Board will be meeting for the first time very soon in line with these changes. And we will be in a position where we'll be able to look at applications that don't quite meet the traditional historic routes of now what is professional standards and assess those applications on a case-by-case basis. Now, the renewal requirements remain unchanged, which we'll get to in a second. Renewal requirements may not remain unchanged, but obviously with mitigating circumstances on renewal, Any applications that maybe don't quite meet professional standards for renewal would also go to the Professional Standards Advisory Board for discussion. So changes to the BAMBA register, and some of you might have seen this already. Teachers are listed now under the term mindfulness teacher in the way that you can see on this screen. Their area of expertise and additional qualifications are listed separately, which you can see below here in this example. And teachers can still be searched and found in the BAMBA database by their area of expertise, their location, their teaching method as listed. So this is just an example of how that might look. Teacher's name, location, area of expertise. Recognised additional qualifications. So additional qualifications list has been extended. So moving forward, if you've been MBI TAC or other competency assessed, you can apply to have that listed on the register. If you're an MBI TAC assessor, then we'll be developing a MBI TAC assessors list that will be held on the website. And again, that can be added to your profile. Launching in the spring and summer of this year will be the opportunity to register yourself as a supervisor, and we'll be updating the copy on the website in terms of how to meet the supervisor register requirements. Workplace trained, so a certificate from an affiliate training organisation would be required for that, and there'll be some information to follow in regards to being listed as somebody that's been workplace trained. And then youth or education trained, so children, young people, education, again, information to follow on that too. So there's some work that's happening around these additional qualifications and more to be added. But to just bring to mind that these are additional qualifications. These are not entry points to the register. So this would be for people that are already listed. So those initial entry points of registration have been met. You're on the register already. You can then apply for additional qualifications to be recognised. So just briefly pointing to governance. So really important, I think, that we just take a moment to pause and just recognise the governance around this work. So firstly, and I mentioned this earlier, the charitable aims are really centric to this work in terms of how we continue to stay focused on safety, integrity and ethics. How we move from a register panel, as I talked to earlier, to a multidisciplinary professional standards advisory board, the PSAB. Membership renewal applications can be supported by the Good Practice Guideline Appendix, which is available on our website. Oversight of all applications that don't meet professional standards, again, through the PSAB and through the BAMBA trustee board. And this culture, and I think this is a really important point, we have this culture internally at BAMBA that we really aim and hope to express and for people to feel that our endeavours are always supported by a culture of continuous learning, continuous improvement that creates space for dialogue, shared experience and growth. And that in doing so, we have the humility to know that we don't always have the answers every time, and that we look to the field, we look to our members to help us to continuously learn and to continuously improve. So let's get on to just a few slides that talk to some of the questions that have come up so far. So one of the first questions we got is, what is meant by retreat being in 50% silence? So within the professional standards, whether you're new to the register or you're renewing, there is a requirement that one of those professional standards is to attend a retreat of 5 days if you are a teacher, 7 days if you're a supervisor per annum. But within the guidelines around retreat, it talks to the retreat being 50% silence. So just to create a little, to demystify maybe this point, 50% silence talks to the amount of overall time in a retreat schedule that the participant is silent. So if you went on a 5-day retreat and on day 1, you turned up and you met with the other participants were there, you met with the leaders, you had that opportunity to settle in and to ground. Your silence might usually start from the next day, and it might then go on for the first full day, the second full day, the third full day. And then in your fifth day, it might be that that day you wake up and you come out of silence. That would be more than 50%. And that is an example of more than 50% of silence within that scheduled time. If it was a one-day retreat, it might be that you move into silence following the induction or the introduction or the agenda setting. You remain silent for the rest of the day, and then slowly you're brought into an inquiry session and out of silence over a period of time towards the end of that one-day retreat. So the top line, and this will be added to the FAQs, the amount of overall time in a retreat schedule that the participant is silent. Do I need to teach an 8-week curricula to allow me to renew my registration each year? So if you registered with BAMBA under NBSR, NBCT, NBCL, as an example, which is very common, that's quite a usual way for people to register with BAMBA, you might think, I need to teach one of those courses every year to stay on the register, but the answer is actually no. And in fact, you don't need to have been teaching at all. You know, some people take moratorium periods where they're not teaching. They might be taking sabbaticals away from this type of work, doing something else, maybe delivering teaching or being part of a mindfulness community in different ways. So absolutely not. You certainly don't need to teach an 8-week course to remain on the register. But some people, and just to be really clear, don't teach at all within the year, but they remain on the register because they want to renew. So the main thing to take away from this point is that registered members should meet the renewal requirements. And those renewal requirements are a minimum amount of supervision, retreat or attendance to extended periods of mindfulness practice, so 5 days, as I touched on earlier, and then that's meeting that CPD requirement of 30 hours. What should I do, if I can't meet one or more of the professional standards when it's time to renew? So in the first instance, as soon as you know, so maybe try not to leave it until or the week before renewal. But if you're getting a sense that actually over the next 3 or 4 months leading up to your renewal, I haven't met my retreat and that's going to be a bit difficult for me to do, or I've only done 3 days and I should have done 5. At the first instance, reach out. Use the address register@bamba.org.uk, reach out, let us know what's happening for you, and we will talk to you about those mitigating circumstances should that be appropriate. Your case will be referred to the PSAB, and we will look at it in its broad context and understand you as an individual. Can we give an example of innovative equivalence? So yes, we can. And these are only 2 examples, but I'd like to just draw us back to the point that I made earlier, which was around humility. So BAMBA has the humility to know and to stand in the presence of knowing that as members, many of you may find an opportunity to step forward and say, I've been on this retreat and it looked like this, and it's slightly different to what I would normally do, but it really helped to meet my needs at that time. Does that feel like that fits with professional standards? So what we're talking about here is the humility to be guided by our professional standards, of course, and to support the work that we do through professional standards and integrity of this work, but to also have the humility to be able to understand how it might be that our members are meeting their needs through innovative equivalents. So when we think about supervision or reflective teaching support, BAMBA, this could be an example. The BAMBA registered teacher seeks support from a qualified person based on specific individual need at the time. For instance, a supervisor with a specific wisdom tradition background, or a supervisor who has had the relevant specific skills and experience in teaching in workplace settings. But that supervisor might not be on a BAMBA register. Retreat attendance or prolonged periods of mindfulness practice. The BAMBA registered teacher completes the requirements of 5 days of attendance to a retreat space, which they have chosen based on their specific needs at the time. And Sally reminded me just a couple of days ago about a specific case that we had a while back, where a member wrote to us and said, I would like to attend this particular retreat. And that particular retreat, the particular retreat they were looking at was 5 days. It was over 50% of silence. It was meditation and mindfulness meditation based, but it was in a Christian setting. Now, that particular retreat met that person's needs at the time and was something that they were deeply passionate about and really felt that they could create a connection that was useful for them in a community that they felt safe in. So I think that that is a pretty good live example of innovative equivalence. We do advise, this piece at the bottom, we do advise that all BAMBA registered teachers discuss their choice of retreat with their supervisor. And if they've got any doubt, then refer to BAMBA for guidance. We quite often get emails from people with links that say, can you just have a look at this retreat for me and let me know if it meets good practice and now professional standards. So please continue to do that. So what do we mean by active teaching? So within the guidelines, we talk about actively teaching. So when it comes to supervision, there is a requirement that if we've got somebody that's on the BAMBA register and they are looking to renew their registration, that they have had supervision whilst they are actively teaching. Now, the best practice is that we would have supervision every month, because supervision isn't just about when we're actively teaching and we are acting as a teacher, let's say, in the realms or in the capacity of working with others, of teaching others. Supervision is much more than that. But from the perspective of professional standards, actively teaching is any time a teacher is teaching others in any capacity. So teaching a curricula, an 8-week course, for example, whether they're leading bespoke courses or workshops or drop-in sessions or introductory sessions, or even when they're leading or co-leading a retreat. If we are actively teaching mindfulness, we should be actively seeking supervision on an ongoing basis. And then how long should supervision sessions be? So best practice is that BAMBA registered teachers are involved in supervision each month, just as I alluded to. And that's on a one-to-one, a peer-based, group-based, or supervision, which is 2 supervisors supervising each other, even if they're not actively teaching, and for 30 minutes as an absolute minimum per month. 30 minutes is an absolute minimum. Registered teachers need to evidence supervision monthly. If inactive, then supervision is not a strict requirement, but is recommended. If inactive for a period of 12 months, so let's say you haven't been teaching for 12 months at all, there's been no teaching whatsoever, but you want to renew your membership, you are still required to have a minimum of 1 supervision session. We're asking that when your supervisor signs off your supervisor referral form, your supervision statement, that when they sign that, they've had a supervision session with you. They've talked to you about your CPD, your retreat attendance, your practice. So even if you're not teaching for a 12-month cycle, 1 supervision session within that period of time. And then can you tell us more about CPD? So what more is there that you could know about CPD? So this is about a commitment to continuous professional development, ensuring that we remain informed and skilled in mindfulness teaching and practice in alignment with the area of work that we might be in. So if we're working in workplace settings, are we maybe looking at CPD in relation to workplace settings? If we're developing our skills in working with children and young people, then what's happening in the CPD space there, and so on. Various modalities of CPD absolutely are considered and deemed effective. So multimedia engagement, it could be community outreach projects, it might be self-directed learning, all of which considered as CPD. And you can find all of these examples in the appendix. CPD equal to or above 30 hours annually is the minimum, always including attending at least 1 live online or in-person mindfulness-based workshop or masterclass. This one comes up quite a lot. So, and this has never changed. It's always been there. But it comes up a lot in questions, what is this kind of online or in-person live masterclass? So this would be like going to an event or being in lectures or attending a 1-day workshop, going to a masterclass of some sort, either online, but live in the moment online, not watching a recording back. So live online when you're in amongst a crowd of people, being given the opportunity to have conversation, to talk about the themes and the topics that might be arising, or it could be face-to-face in a face-to-face environment, which I think many of us are definitely enjoying getting back to now more often. And then 50% of the overall CPD, so 15 hours of 30, may be completed via reading, listening to podcasts, or other mindfulness-based materials, for instance, YouTube. So we're talking about things like research papers and reading a book or being part of a book group, but only 50% of that. And then safeguarding. So this is something that we've added for 2026 to 2027. Registered teachers now required to hold an accredited safeguarding qualification or safeguarding training refresh that's been completed in the last 3 years. So some of you might have done this already because it's part of your job of working with vulnerable adults or children. The training may be undertaken independently, so it might be something that you've done already, or you're doing it independently, or you're thinking about doing it independently. It could be that your employer offers this opportunity. It could be that it's recognised as an equivalent by another professional body. So it might be that you're listed with BAMBA and you're listed elsewhere, and because you've had to have safeguarding training to be listed elsewhere, you've already done it there, so it's recognised elsewhere too. So because we've introduced this for February 2026, there's this whole year of grace to get this in place, the safeguarding training in place, up until February 2027. BAMBA will inform all of its members and the broader field about any CPD opportunities that we look to put on in the future, and there is some work happening around that. And we'll also work with our affiliate organisations, making sure that we understand what they might be doing around safeguarding that could be offered more broadly. And then on our website, we've listed 3 free resources that can be used to complete that online learning if you want to do it online. So if you haven't got a preference, face-to-face or online, and online is okay for you, we've put some free resources, and there's 3 choices of free resources that you could look at, complete that online learning, and then that would meet that safeguarding requirement. We would advise that all teachers listed with BAMBA undertake safeguarded training. That's the requirement, whether you're working with vulnerable adults or minors. The preference is that we lean into the safeguarding training, no matter of the audience that we're working with as teachers. And then any new applications. So if there's anyone on the session today or watching this back, if you aren't registered with BAMBA but are looking to register, then a safeguarding training certificate will be required now prior to register approval. So let's just stop there. I'm going to bring the screen back. There we go. Lovely. Good. Okay, great. So that's the end of the update as well, that there are a number of different articles and documents that you can find on the website. So if you haven't visited the website recently, have a look, because we've done some real tidying up around it. So on the left-hand side of the page, you'll see a direct route into professional standards and good practice guidelines. And it's laid out on a page, but you can also pull off the PDF, which matches the content that's on the website copy. So do have a look at that. There's a piece of work around the professional standards in more detail, the revisions to the good practice guidelines, and as I said, the appendix. The appendix is really important because it demonstrates not only the what and the how, but then how to get to the how. So some real examples of how to do that. So we're good for time. I'm wondering if I can see that there's already a couple of things that have come up in the chat. So I'm going to have a quick look at those. And then as and when things are starting to arise for you, maybe there'll be people that might want to look at at asking questions too. So let's have